We are all over the quarterback position this week. It's Chris and Ash. Not only is there a Netflix series that's going to have a season 2 with quarterback, we are breaking down the teams that are best equipped at the most important position in sports for at least the next few years. I think there are fewer teams in the NFL than you would think that are secure at that position for the next few years. We got the performance industrial dirty difficult done. James Harden and Daryl Morey, I'll tell you what, that relationship is done. Is Harden's time with the 76ers done? We'll get into that. We're of course going to recap our trip to Atlanta between the Yankees and the Braves, and now New York, as we do this show live on a Thursday night. One game under 500 for the first time this season. It's the first time that they've been under 500 this late in a year since 1995. Woo! Crazy stuff. And they made the playoffs that year, okay? So it's not going to happen this year, but we'll dive into what's wrong with the Yankees and how can you possibly fix it. And maybe we'll fix Ashley's cough as well. No. Let's get going.
This is Honorado and Miller, sponsored by Alpen House.
And a shout out to all of our local business partners here on Honorado and Miller. Week 3, new name, new time, same cough. Ash, let some people in behind the scenes here. You will see Ashley mute herself on multiple occasions. Repeatedly. She's had the same cough for at least 2 months. You will say shorter, but it isn't. It's been at least 2 months.
Yeah, at least 7 weeks. If you are a pulmonologist, an allergist, if you have any
sending theories, it out to the people here.
Any theories, please put them in the comments. Send them my way. I will listen to just about anything at this point.
So what seems to be the problem? Every time you get a cold, you have a cough that lingers for months.
At least 2 months, generally. This cough has been a little different in that, depending on where I am, in what environmental situation I am in, it seems to get significantly better, i.e. Atlanta. I come home, a disaster today. Total disaster, like uncontrolled coughing for the last 5 hours of my life.
You can't go out in public. You can't do it. You can't be in a work environment. You just can't do it.
It's pretty unbelievable. If anyone has any suggestions, it's been unruly, really. And I don't know. I don't have any answers. Some days I feel great. Right now I feel like I don't know what it feels like to smoke 10 packs of cigarettes, but I feel like I just smoked 10 packs of cigarettes.
Well, you're allergic to something. Sam's watching. He's on with us early. We're an hour early this week with some stuff going on tonight. Lee Bryce was on the show a couple weeks ago. We're going to go check out Lee Bryce at the Palace on this Thursday night. We'll get to Chris Rooney's comment. Well, let's just do it here. He wants to know, how is there not already a job opening in the GM's office? There will be. Cashman, see if any dirt on the Steinbrenner family. It's crazy. Cashman's been around. I think he's been the GM since 98. Bob Watson before that, but I think it's been Cash's job since 98. Crazy how long he's lasted without winning, really, right? I mean,
he won from 98 to 2009. Hasn't won since.
Well, he won 98, 99, 2000. That's what I mean.
He won a lot from 98 to 99. Like enough to keep your job. Hasn't won since. How do you go 14 years?
Well, the skeptics would say he won with the team Bob Watson put together. That's the way that would go, right? It's the kind of the carryover effect for college coaches. Sometimes you win with the other guys, players at times. Yanks are below 500 for the first time this season. Losing record again this late in the season for the first time since September 5th, 1995. They're 60-61. They're 11-19 since the All-Star break. They were one hit in Atlanta. They were shut out twice. I mean, not only do they not score enough runs, you couldn't name more than 2 starting pitchers you might trust on any given night. And I think it's only one, Garrett Cole.
We saw it live and in person. And listen, I was prepared to go to Atlanta, not win a game, not be a super happy Yankee fan, knowing that you would be pretty happy because the Braves would win. I understand the gap between those two teams. One is going to be a World Series contender and one will not be in the playoffs. But it was worse than I imagined it would be. Like, we're talking after the second inning, not competitive.
Of
Basically
Monday night.
in any game except last night. I mean, it was 2-0 last night. But the two games we saw, not competitive.
Yeah, and Morton had 10 strikeouts Wednesday night. Right. So the offense was really just shut down completely. Okay, so that's the fact on that. And everybody's asking the question, is it time? Yes, it is. But will Hal Steinbrenner make a change at these two spots? Manager, general manager.
I mean, I've thought yes for the last 3 years. I've legitimately thought that it should not only be Aaron Boone, but that it should be Brian Cashman for the last 3 years. And he has yet to do it. My question is, how did the apple fall so far from the tree? Who is this Steinbrenner that he just has no, like, the want to win is not there. He doesn't care that they're not winning, no interest in it. And I don't care that you're making money on game tickets and jerseys and all the rest of that. You can't win. Something's got to change. Pretty soon these Yankees fans are going to revolt. It's so bad.
Yeah, I've said it for years now that Cashman's construction of the team has been the problem, not the decisions made out of the dugout by Aaron Boone. But at this point, you have to get rid of both guys. Right. Boone's in his 6th year. It just isn't working. Cashman's been around now forever. And again, can't in 2023 and what will be 24, you can't say, yeah, but I won in 98, 99, and 2000. That's just not going to fly. And even the 09 year isn't enough at this point. So it's time. It's just absolutely time. There's nothing. Again, I said it on either last week's show or the week before that, maybe up at the trade deadline. I would have made everybody on this roster available other than Aaron Judge. And that includes Garrett Cole. I would have put Garrett Cole out there. What can I get in return? Somebody I'm not paying $36 million to pitch on a team that isn't going to make the playoffs. Can I build up the farm system a little bit? Let me get some prospects. In 3 years, we're going to be good to go again. But you can't do that in New York. You especially can't do that if you're the Yankees organization. So you're caught now in no man's land here. You're not good enough to win. You don't have a future aside from maybe Jason Dominguez, and we don't know what the heck he's going to be.
Right.
So there's nobody to look forward to in the farm system. You don't have great talent up in the majors. You are literally in no man's land. Unless you're willing to totally hit reset on this, you're not going to win anytime soon. Signing Shohei Ohtani is not going to be enough. No. Just bringing in free agents is – Ash, this is a team that if it wins in the next 4 years, I think I'd tell you I'm really surprised.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the biggest thing is there would just have to be changes of monumental proportion. And I'm not a believer that that's going to happen. So and even if they did make changes of a monumental proportion, I don't think that new team and that new era wins as quickly as 4 years because of the amount of change that has to happen. For me, I keep Garrett Cole because he is a number one on any team, basically any team in the majors. Mm-hmm. And you need a number one to win games. But you also need a number two and then at least average 3s and 4s. They don't have a number 2. They don't have a number 3. They don't have a number 4. And they don't have a number 5.
But you have to score runs to win games in baseball. Now, pitching's important, but you have to be able to score runs. I mean, look, we keep going back to the Atlanta lineup, but we could point at the Dodgers lineup too. These are relentless,
top to bottom.
and Texas as well. They are relentless offenses. The lineups are deep. There's no easy out really in that lineup. And so when you talk about the fact that the Yankees had a 2-game stretch where they struck out 30 total times, first time that's ever happened, where they've just, in terms of team average, but also total offense and scoring runs, they've struggled all year long, especially after the last couple of months of this season. So I don't know. How do you fix the issues here?
Not easily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a simple answer here. I also don't think they're going to chase Ohtani, to be completely honest with you.
I don't think it's It's not a one quick fix
Correct.
type of thing. It has to be
Yep.
a change in mentality and philosophy at the highest level. It has to be things have to change. And I don't know if it's like a misjudging of talent, because while guys like Oswaldo Cabrera are good and guys like Anthony Volpe are good, they're not guys that are like once in a generation type.
But that's not where they went wrong.
No, I agree.
Where they went wrong was
where they get right is when they unload Giancarlo Stanton, and when they're done with his contract, when they're done with some of these huge money contracts. And I'm not talking Garrett Cole, because Garrett Cole is actually earns the money that he is getting. Giancarlo Stanton does not.
You have 4 more years of Giancarlo Stanton.
I know, I get it, but that's
where they went wrong is
4 years.
Guys like Stanton, yes, Donaldson, continuing to play. Torres, he should have been traded a while ago when he still had some value. They could have seen this coming. In my opinion, they could have seen this coming.
But they left him.
Bringing Rizzo back, and now look, he started hot. He just hasn't done anything now in months. LeMahieu got a 4-year deal that you probably could have seen the downslide coming, right? If you're really kind of clear eyes at this situation. So to me, it isn't the young guys that just maybe aren't talented enough. It's the investment in the 33 and older crowd that is not paying off now.
But
and
it's also, I think, a misjudge of what they had in their farm system, because their farm system was one of the top rated in the league. It was top 5. And who has come out of that farm system that has been any good for that team?
No,
it's not homegrown talent.
They tried
aside
it
from
with
Aaron Judge. It's not homegrown talent, and they make bad decisions. It's not big money contracts on young guys. It's big money contracts on older guys who are going to spend near 35 and up years in pinstripes, and those never work out. They never work out. Even if you got 2 good years out of DJ LeMahieu in that contract, I think it would have been worth it, but you didn't even get that.
Are you holding out any hope here that the Yanks can still make the playoffs?
After seeing them this weekend or this week? No.
Yeah. No. Okay.
It's just, you can tell what a good baseball team is. And listen, the Braves are better than most baseball teams. There are not a lot of teams constructed the way the Braves are. And that's not to say, like, the Dodgers and Braves both have a ton of money invested in their lineups. It's just done differently. They've done it right. They've done it differently. A lot of it is homegrown, but for the Dodgers, it's not. That's been a lot of free agent signings. Yeah. But they've had young pitchers who have been absolute stars that people like you and I had never heard of before. And I know they've had injuries, but the Dustin Mays, like the guys who you just don't see coming, who come in and light the world on fire, even if just for a season or 2. The Yankees haven't had any of that.
I mean, if that isn't the NLCS Dodgers Braves, there has been a big upset somewhere in the National League playoffs. All right, let's take a quick time out here on Honorado and Miller. When we come back, college football's top 25 rankings are out. Who's underrated, who's overrated, who's got the best shot of stopping Georgia's attempt at a three-peat. And again, we're all over the quarterback position this week in the NFL, not only from the Netflix show, but also in terms of what teams are set at that position for at least the next few years. I would say they're fewer than half the league, and maybe even fewer than you would guess beyond that. We're back right after this on Honorado and Miller.
Whether you're into lounging, cruising, or just relaxing, summer fun starts with Albany House. Enjoy a smooth ride that'll change the way you boat forever on a Barletta pontoon powered by Mercury Outboard. Nobody makes a more reliable, powerful lineup of outboard motors than Mercury to continue propelling your adventures. Now's the perfect time to buy a new Barletta pontoon with the legendary performance of a Mercury outboard. Albany House, Route 30, Amsterdam, and alpenhouseboats.com.
I don't care what kind of stories that's been told on you. That may be a lot of things in life you used to do. True love to me, I'll understand. Just do the best you can.
Ultra with 2.6 carbs and 95 calories.
And now, back to Honorado and Miller. Sponsored by Alphen House.
All right, here we go. Honorado and Miller. It's Chris and it's Ash. And yeah, Carol wants to know. Carol
missed the top of the show.
Yeah, she did. We don't know what it is, Carol. It was a cold, and then it has just become a cough that lingers forever. I'm convinced it's some kind of allergy, but I am far, far, far
I think you might be right.
a doctor. So we'll just kind of bypass that because we don't know. And what they say in live radio used to be, when in doubt, leave it out. Here's the college football top 25 rankings, the top 5 teams. I remember when we first saw these scroll across the screen and you went, ooh, Michigan's 2. Yeah, that probably seems about right. Georgia, no doubt, number 1. Ohio State, look, these are just schools that reload every year. Bama is going to love the fact that they are 4. And this centers around the uncertainty at quarterback. Like they might go with the Notre Dame transfer Tyler Buckner for the first few weeks before they can get the other 2 guys into the system and rolling. So those first few weeks for Alabama could be really, really important. LSU has worked the transfer portal like crazy. Brian Kelly was good last year. I think the Tigers have a big year this year, but they're just reload and get back out there again. I think Bama is going to love the fact that that Saban can tell his guys, you are being disrespected and underrated and
against you.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything to stoke the fire.
Yeah, it's a good spot for the Crimson Tide to be in for sure. And then the next 5 in the top 10, USC. They have the Heisman Trophy winner back, Lincoln Riley, year 2. Florida State, everybody expecting a big year out of the Seminoles. Penn State, Clemson, Washington. Michael Penix, the quarterback for the Huskies, high on a lot of Heisman lists for people. So Washington and Penn State and Florida State, honestly, there are 4 teams or 3 teams in this next 5 that I think people would raise some eyebrows at.
Yeah, I love it because it's a little different than the years of past. Maybe it's some teams that haven't been in the top 10 before. I kind of like that Washington's in there. I hope that they're good. I hope USC's as good as they're supposed to be because these are teams that are part of that whole conference realignment. Where do we go? Where are we? Who are we? So them being good will be a good thing. So I hope they are as good as advertised. Otherwise, these are teams that have the potential, it feels like, to start in the top 10 and end up outside the top 25 at the end of the year. And you hope that's not the case because I think it's good for football if those teams are good.
Yeah, they could help kind of send the Pac-12 out on a little bit of a good note. Is there a team, well, which team? I'll make you pick one. What's the biggest threat to Georgia's shot at a three-peat?
Alabama. It's always Alabama for me until it's not Alabama. I get it. Michigan's on the rise. I don't know as much about the Michigan program as just what Saban seems to churn out in Tuscaloosa every year. And like you said, even when these teams are picked 4th in the country or underrated or disrespected, sometimes that's better for them. That don't pick them number 1 because then all they can do is underachieve, basically, if they're not number 1, and that's hard to do. So, yeah, I think it gives them a chip on their shoulder. I think for a long time the answer will always be Alabama for me. The team I'm most interested to see if they're any good is Texas. Like, that's a team that is – I mean, the days when we were growing up, Texas football makes college football more fun.
Sure.
More fun. I want Arch Manning.
Well, you're going to get Quinn Ewers, who's pretty darn good, too.
I want next year so we can get Arch Manning.
Okay. Texas is right outside of the top 10 here. They're 11, and Tennessee is right there with them. In a lot of polls, they're tied. They're sharing the 11th spot with the Longhorns. To me, it feels like LSU is the team that is just ready to surprise some people. That look, they're already 5th.
Yeah.
So, but to pull off some upsets here, it's LSU. And I'm with you. I'm just interested. Can USC live up to it? They're loaded and ready to go again. Jordan Addison no longer there, obviously, but they're loaded up and and ready to go. This was interesting. We haven't done this yet on the show.
Yeah.
It's a couple of weeks old. I've been meaning to get to it, and we just haven't had the time to do it in 58 minutes and 30 seconds every week. Brian Kelly told the media, I think at SEC Media Day, believe it or not, that he's going to be more transparent with his approach to injury reports. And that is, and he was very transparent about this, that he doesn't want bookies or people in and around the program getting information about injuries that aren't available to the public. And then kids can kind of be manipulated maybe to the idea of a bit of a gambling.
Yep.
So he's going to be very upfront about all the injuries to his guys to try to avoid anybody trying to work a little bit of an angle to get information on the program that maybe isn't already out there publicly. It's just kind of crazy that coaches have to think this way.
Yeah.
That, you know, where I might hide an injury, right? The week of the Alabama game, I might hide an injury a little bit. No, now I'm going to take this approach where I'm telling all just to try to avoid any snakes in the grass.
But I'll be interested to see if this works for him. Because if other coaches don't take this approach, well, then it's not going to benefit him to do this. It's going to hurt him because other coaches are going to hide their injuries longer, be more vague about what the injury is, what the timetable is. Could they return? Oh, yeah, they're probable, they're possible, they're whatever. And then you learn on Saturday morning they're not going to play. So it's all well and good. It's nice of him to say he's going to do that. But if 3 games in, he realizes that this is not helping him, it's in fact hurting him, is he going to continue to do it? Do you do something for the betterment of the game and the betterment of the sport that hurts your individual team? My guess is no.
Yeah. No, not if it's that. Not if you can really make a clear line like, okay, these other teams have a book on us. We don't need them to have that information ahead of time. I don't know. It just kind of struck me as interesting that Brian Kelly's even thinking that way.
Yep.
Right? Like I'm dealing with a bunch of teenagers, early 20-year-olds. I don't need them potentially being influenced for information that just isn't, that I'm not putting out there as the coach.
Mm-hmm.
So he's trying to get ahead of it. We are in interesting times, that's for sure. All right, another time out here on Honorado and Miller. When we come back, our Performance Industrial Dirty Difficult Done takes us to the NBA, and there is always drama around James Harden. It has not stopped. Back right after this.
Teams, athletes, organizations. We're transforming the custom apparel industry through product and purpose. Claim your crown.
You've heard of unsung heroes. The men and women of Newschannel are the unseen heroes. For the past year, you've learned about our many charitable endeavors. Now it is my privilege to share with you the work performed by our members, the 20,000 state correction and law enforcement officers shielded from view. They work in difficult and dangerous conditions and are an extension of the police who protect our neighborhoods. Newschannel honors New York's police and firefighters and salutes its own members who help deliver a peaceful night's sleep.
And now, back to Honorado and Miller. Sponsored by Alpen House.
Shout out to Alpen House, Saratoga Eagle, Performance Industrial, Newschannel, Marcella's, and Novice, which is where I am for this week's show at their headquarters right off Wolf Road in Colony. All right, Ash, let's just do it.
And now, Dirty, Difficult, and Done. Sponsored by Performance Industrial.
And a shout out to our guy, Bill Miller, and his entire crew at Performance Industrial, where we always tell you there's never a job that's too dirty or too difficult for them to get it done. This is what's done. Deal or no deal, whether he's traded or whether he was given a long-term contract, which he's not going to get in Philly, James Harden is done with the 76ers. He opted in to the player option on his deal for 35.6 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was under the impression that by doing that, the organization would then trade him, that it would make it easier for the Sixers to trade him with an expiring contract. And okay, well, they floated him out there. By all reports, there were multiple conversations with the Los Angeles Clippers, which is Harden's preferred destination. But apparently the Sixers' asking price was too much. The Clippers and no other team wanted to match it. So Daryl Morey over the weekend says, you know what? We're gonna take him off the trading block. He didn't say we're going to keep James Harden. He just said we're pulling him back. And we're not entertaining any more offers at the current time. Then Harden just absolutely blasts Daryl Morey. I think he was in China at the time for an event, and he just calls Morey a liar. I'll never be part of an organization that guy is with part of again. He's the team president in Philly. He was the GM in Houston when James Harden played for the Rockets. So there is history. But this was enough to topple all of that. And so I don't know how it ends up, but I know that James Harden will not play a game for the Philadelphia 76ers this year. Not only does he not want it, the Sixers can't afford it. This is a team that is going to tell you it has championship aspirations. Mm-hmm. You cannot have James Harden as part of one training camp, let alone regular season, and pretend like you're going to go win big games in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. So he won't be there. I don't know how it sorts itself out.
Yeah.
But what happens ultimately, right, is that the Sixers have to trade Harden for pennies on the dollar.
I was going to say that
everybody knows he's not going to play.
Have to take a loss on this.
Yeah.
Have to.
Yeah, have to get rid of him.
Yeah, they're going to have to give him up for some really bad return and just be okay with getting rid of the contract and getting rid of the issues that he presents and hope that they're good enough without him to still be contenders in the East.
Yeah.
And I think they will be.
Yeah, they have some pieces. They have some pieces.
You hope to get something back in return. You're just not going to get a lot back in return.
Right. You're going to lean on Maxey and Harris and Embiid.
Yep.
Right. And hope that you get something of that. Look, teams, I can say they'll only get pennies on the dollar, but a team that's desperate enough to upgrade their roster will eventually fold and say, we have a chance to win this year. We believe he helps put us over the top. Let's make whatever deal we need to make to get him.
Yeah, but is that going to be early? I'm not sure that teams are going to be willing to do that early enough. You know what I mean? Like to kind of blow up their team and what they thought they had put together.
This bleeds into the regular season for you.
Yeah, I think so. But that's the thing is like if he's not going to play a game for them, what's he going to do? Sit out? Then they're going to fine him. Yeah. And it becomes this whole thing. It just is. I mean, that's like a messy divorce. It's not
I mean, this is Aaron Rodgers going on the Pat McAfee show and saying, I intend to play for the New York Jets. When that happened, there's no way he was going to set foot at Packers training camp. Just absolutely no. You can't have that circus.
Right.
Same thing with Brett Favre when he unretired and all of a sudden he's back and Rodgers is named the like. You just can't do that. So the Sixers know we can't let him back in the building. He's got to be traded before mandatory training camp starts. Period. Every team in the NBA knows it now too. Interesting. Speaking of the Sixers
bad spot to be in.
And the Clippers, Doc Rivers, now former coach of both squads, is part of the top NBA broadcast crew now on ESPN and ABC. So ESPN lets go of both Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. Stunning to me. Stunning. They say, Doris Burke, you've been doing radio. She's phenomenal. We both love her. And so now they team up Doris with Doc and Mike Breen. Thoughts?
I love Doris and I love Mike Breen individually, but I am going to miss the heck out of those guys. I mean, there's not many better in this business at what he does than Jeff Van Gundy. What he brings to the table and how different he is than Jeff Van Gundy. I read an amazing article in Sports Illustrated about the Van Gundys, plural, both of them, and just their upbringings from California to then upstate New York or central New York, I guess technically it would be Port. The connections with their dad as a coach, and just the small beginnings where they started and then got to. And the story alone is unbelievable. Listen, Doris is maybe she's an all-time favorite for me. But in terms of females in just sports broadcasting in general, it's Doris and Jess Mendoza for me. I think they're two of the best at what they do. They're likable. Doris brings a knowledge that I think it even exceeds what some men bring to the table. Most men bring to the table. Sure. She's just fun and enjoyable. Doesn't take herself too seriously, but I'm going to miss Van Gundy. Ultimately, I'm going to miss Van Gundy. Doc Rivers, whatever. That for me is, I love Mark Jackson. I love Jeff Van Gundy. So I'm going to miss those guys. I will really, really enjoy Doris and Mike Breen, but I will certainly miss those guys.
Yeah, for me, Van Gundy and Jackson made the broadcast, and I've read things since they've been let go by ESPN that broadcasters and analysts don't drive ratings, that people don't tune into games specifically for broadcasters. I'll buy some of that, but if it's a game I'm not all that interested in, but I know that Van Gundy and Jackson are doing it, I'm going to watch because of the element of the unknown. Like Van Gundy at any point was going to say something so ridiculous, right? Or hypercritical that you just respected that from him. He wasn't in broadcasting to try to get another coaching job. He didn't care about who he offended or who's what he kissed to try to get back into the league. And that was the beauty of him. And then the way they played off one another, Jackson having played for Van Gundy, it just was a perfect combination. And now this feels like it's not thrown together. You get the name of Doc Rivers, which every NBA fan knows, and of course the people who really follow it know and respect Doris Burke. Right. But it's not for how great Doris is. I don't believe they elevate the broadcast table courtside of an NBA game. She will be. This is history here. Doris will be the first female analyst on an NBA championship series. So that's pretty cool. So you get Doris Burke doing that. We're talking about it on Dottie Pepper's birthday. And Dottie was the first female on-course golf analyst. Happy birthday, Dottie.
Happy birthday, Dottie. Good one. That's a good shout out. I mean, nothing I haven't already said. I agree. I think the biggest thing is the personality and the relationship specifically that Van Gundy and Mark Jackson have, the rapport, they're so comfortable with one another that they're comfortable ribbing one another. And that's not the relationship that you're going to get from Doris and Doc. It's just not going to happen that way. And Mike. So it will be different.
You'll agree with half of Tammy's comment here that she won't watch some sports broadcasts because of the broadcasters. We probably all feel that way about some people.
Yep. And
Joe Buck is on her won't watch or listen to list, which I know you don't agree with. And I don't agree with either. I like Joe Buck.
Yeah, but I know Joe Buck is for some reason, a very polarizing broadcaster.
He is.
He feels like a love-or-hate guy. And there's really no in between. I don't know a lot of people who say that they're just kind of on Joe Buck. He doesn't bother them. He doesn't whatever. I love Joe Buck. I think he's phenomenal at what he does. Some of the greatest baseball calls in the postseason have his voice attached to them. So, and I like him better in the baseball booth than I do in the football booth.
Regardless of your and look, I'd love for everybody to love me, but you want people to feel strongly about you one way or the other, right? The last thing you want as a media personality, let's say, is for people to go, yeah, he's okay. Like that doesn't do it.
I would take I like you. I don't need I love you.
Okay. But I'm just saying that the indifference is not good for the brand.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not good for the brand.
I think my thing about that is but you can be good. It's when people notice you when you're very good or very bad.
Very bad. Yeah.
People don't notice you, but I think it's good because a lot of people get jobs because they don't rub people the wrong way. they're not polarizing. So I think those people succeed because you don't have the two sides that are, so opposite to one another. There are not a lot of people like that. Listen, you're never going to get 100% of the population who loves any one person at what they do, because that's just not how the world works. But yeah, there are people who are just kind of down the middle. They play it down the middle, not as much personality, not as much, I guess, opinion. Maybe people don't like opinion if you get opinion in that kind of stuff. Tony Romo's another one that seems to be very polarizing. I like him, but there are a lot of people who don't like him. It's an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, Ray makes a good point here. Depends on the teammate matters. It matters in the broadcast booth for sure.
I agree. It's
been Smoltz. It's Aikman. Been Aikman forever. He's obviously no longer in baseball on Fox, so the Smoltz combo is out.
I love Smoltz too.
ESPN's got to find more ways to use Joe Buck. He's too good. He's too good and too big of a name for them to only be doing Monday Night Football and a little bit of golf.
Right, because Monday Night Football is not your bread and butter. I mean, they want it to be, but it's not.
It is. I mean, it's their only NFL.
I know, but that's why they brought him in.
Yeah.
Because they want him to elevate it.
All right. Another timeout here on Honorado and Miller. When we come back here, we're diving into the quarterback position. Are you watching the show on Netflix? We just started it. It's phenomenal.
It is.
And I'll get into it. Mm-hmm. We'll also break down which teams are set for at least the next few years at the quarterback position. If you've got thoughts on the Yankees, we will take them. We're back right after this.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
Life is about making memories. It's about sharing special moments with those we love and cherishing those moments forever. And what better way to create those memories than by spending time together in a space that is as beautiful and as special as the memories we create. Visit Albany House on Route 30 in Amsterdam and Clifton Park Center and let us handle the heavy lifting. Take advantage of free local delivery and we'll haul away your old grill or patio furniture.
And now, back to Honorado and Miller. Sponsored by Albany House.
There are sometimes shows that I just like, I don't know, I'm difficult. I just say like, everybody's watching that. I'm not going to watch. I had somebody at work ask me today, have you seen the Barbie movie? And I said, no, haven't seen it. Don't have plans to catch it. And the response was, yeah, but it's like so ingrained in current pop culture now.
Which is why I'm a little surprised you're kind of writing it off.
If you don't see it, you don't understand the references. Yep. You're not up on what other people are. You can't give an opinion
one way or another.
And I said, what is it about that movie that would make me I have to go? Is it like over the top funny? No. Is it like historically significant? No. It just feels like, I've heard that it's empowering for the female movement, and that's great. But in a way, Barbie has always been that. Objectified, yes, but in that displayed the power a female can have many times. So I haven't seen the movie. I don't think if I see it, it'll be streamed. If I see it, it will be streamed, period. Okay. It will not be in a movie theater. And I guess maybe there'll be a quiet night where we have nothing else going on and we say, you want to watch Barbie?
We got a lot of stuff on the list. But,
we do. So I say all of that to get to the point of I'm glad that I succumbed to the peer pressure of watching this Netflix series. It's not a doc. This Netflix series called Quarterback, which is already up for a season 2. They're having a hard time finding quarterbacks who are going to do season 2. but there is already a season 2 in the works. So we would see it this time next year, detailing the 2023 season. So who would you like to see featured? I can already tell you the guys who have said no, if that makes it easier for you. Here are the list of quarterbacks who have reportedly already turned it down: Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, Dak Prescott, Geno Smith, Justin Fields, Jimmy Garoppolo is the latest to say no. So take all of those guys off the board, and which 3 would you like to see featured?
That's rough. I was going to say I would be very interested in Jimmy G. Listen, if Aaron Rodgers would commit to it, I would take him because it would just be another version of Hard Knocks, and I want a glimpse inside of his weird, weird world. That's a Backstreet Boys song, by the way.
Weird World is a Backstreet Boys song?
I believe that's the lyrics. I don't know if that's the name of the song.
I'm not surprised that didn't go to number 1.
No.
Sam wants to know, have you watched Hard Knocks yet?
No, we started this instead, Sam. I will watch it someday. I also don't enjoy, Chris knows this about me, I don't enjoy watching something on a week-by-week released basis. So this Hard Knocks may be better for me once it's all, like once the season is halfway done, I can start catching up. I don't enjoy like one episode and then I have to wait a week to watch another. So we start a quarterback instead.
Okay. All right. So we're back to the question here.
Yeah.
What 3 quarterbacks? Rodgers is 1 for you. It's good.
Yeah. It's rough. I was going to say Garoppolo. Justin Herbert wasn't on that list, right?
Mm-mm.
I'll take him.
Okay.
And Trevor Lawrence said no.
Yeah.
It would be a good one too.
I'll jump in here and just Josh Allen.
He'd be good.
Joe Burrow is made for it.
He'd be great.
And then I would like to see somebody who isn't a superstar like those 2 guys, somebody who's trying to make his way through it the way we've seen with Marcus Mariota in a lot of ways.
This is fun. Let's pick a Marcus Mariota type that we would like to see featured. That's not the stud. That's like a backup or a like, do you want Bryce Purdy? Do you want, Bryce Purdy might be the starter. Like a backup Gardner Minshew. Like if we're picking backups, he's not going to be
play in the game.
I know, but there's not a lot of Marcus Mariotas out there that are like Ryan Tannehill. I don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of guys who aren't like studs who I want to be on that show.
Yeah,
Baker
again,
Mayfield?
these are the guys who said no. Baker would be interesting.
Like they'd bring the drama.
Yeah.
I can't believe all those guys said no. I'm not surprised Daniel Jones said no. He's no fun at all. So, of course, he said
no. And I was just going to say that about Russell Wilson. He wouldn't be any fun. That would be the most boring show ever put on TV.
Yeah, maybe. But he's got at least an interesting enough life that it might be kind of cool. Because it's a very, a lot of quarterback is...
The glamorous life, yeah.
Is an inside look at the home life of these guys. And
yeah, only current quarterbacks, Tammy. Yep.
and it's interesting.
All right, so Jeff Casey, the Trey Lance...
I'm out on Trey.
Option is interesting only because we don't know. I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't think Trey Lance takes one snap as the 49ers starter this year. Not one. I don't think he starts a single game.
Holy smokes.
He might take some snaps because they're blowing somebody out or they're getting blown out or he comes in because somebody got injured. I don't think he starts a single game in San Francisco this year. They will use Darnold until Purdy is ready to go.
I know this is weird, but I would be somewhat interested in Jordan Love just because of the scenario he's been put into.
For sure.
And trying to be the guy.
He would be an idiot to do it.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got it right. We've talked about how much we love the show. Peyton Manning is the executive producer of this show. They hit it out of the park. The production quality is amazing. The access they get is unbelievable. Just mic'd up in huddles and in their houses and in the training rooms and in the ice baths. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, they're like the pumpkin patch with the Mahomes family, some like local fair type of setup. I don't know. They just follow these guys around for 17, 18, 19 weeks, whatever. So Tammy wants to know, why are they declining the offer? Because it's invasive, Tammy. So it's like, you've got camera crews in your house at practice following you, bothering you then for interviews during each week to reflect on the game before that you just played and to talk about your emotions. And it's an invasive process, but that's why we love it so much, is because you really feel like you are in it with these guys.
So it's Mahomes, it's Kirk Cousins,
right,
and it's Marcus Mariota.
And we are 3 episodes in, 2 episodes in, 3, I think. 3 of 6.
Episodes in.
Oh, 4 of 8. Right, 4 of 8.
Got 8 to go.
And what have you learned? What's the number one thing you say you've learned at this point by watching the show?
Well, and I already knew this.
Oh, okay.
But the play calls are absolutely absurd. Like 15 words that don't make any sense together. Yep. Like right fly, X hot dog, Jimmy T, F jump sideways. And then they repeat it. It gets sent to them in their helmet, and then they repeat it. And somehow it all makes sense to everyone in that huddle. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't even think I could recite that in the huddle after somebody said it in my ear, let alone know what I'm talking about. But it's interesting the way they break it down. They're like, well, this is the coverage part, and then this is the this part, and this is the that part. It's wild.
For me, and this is not new, but it's just like how detailed these guys are. I mean, what Kirk Cousins specifically puts himself through mentally, physically, to try to stay at the top of his game now as he goes into his mid-30s. But the number one takeaway for me is how likable Kirk Cousins is. We've ripped him forever about not being able to win in prime time or win the big game and a playoff game and all this stuff. And look, I'm never going to root for the Minnesota Vikings in my life.
Yep.
But if Kirk Cousins were to find himself on a different team that was not a threat to Green Bay, I would like to see him succeed. He seems like a really good guy. Teammates like him, takes some brutal hits and keeps ticking like that. I don't know. He's a very likable person in this series.
I always thought he was a little bit like cocky and arrogant, and I hated the whole you like that, and you'll learn all about it. And they go into that game and that episode in an episode. I always just kind of thought he was arrogant, and he just comes across as like guy next door, totally cool. He's like your average dad who just happens to be a very brilliant studier. And he's the first to say, he says it all throughout the episode, all throughout the last episode we watched, like football is an academic sport. For people who tell you that you don't need to be intelligent, forget classes, you don't have to go to them. He's like, all you do is study and learn.
Yeah.
That's all you do is study and learn about the quarterback position. And then you go out there and you put it all to the test. So.
Yeah. It's funny. I
confused it, but
no, but I think, and I'm not saying you did, and I don't know that Jonathan is even saying that you did, but I heard somebody else use this phrase in comparison recently with the successes and failures of quarterbacks in the NFL. Guys who are cocky or arrogant are generally the ones who don't succeed at that position, but you've got to be confident. Absolutely have to be confident. All right, final 10 minutes of the show here. We're breaking down which NFL teams are set at quarterback for at least the next few years, and which ones do we think are still searching. Final time out in the show. Back right after this.
Whether you're into lounging, cruising, or just relaxing, summer fun starts with Albany House. Enjoy a smooth ride that'll change the way you boat forever on a Barletta pontoon powered by Mercury Outboard. Nobody makes a more reliable, powerful lineup of outboard motors than Mercury to continue propelling your adventures. Now's the perfect time to buy a new Barletta pontoon with the legendary performance of a Mercury outboard. Albany House, Route 30, Amsterdam, and alpenhouseboats.com.
I don't care what kind of stories that's been told on you. That may be a lot of things in life you used to do. If you can't give true love to me, I'll understand. do the best you can.
Michelob Ultra, 2.6 carbs and 95 calories.
And now, back to Honorado and Miller. Sponsored by Alpin House.
All right, back on Honorado and Miller. Shout out to the great Heck family from Alpin House.
It is hot in this room.
Oh, really?
Holy smokes. I think it's like 90 degrees in here.
So we do a lot of times I'm there with the fake wood background, but Ashley is in the podcast room at the TV station right now. We have big bright lights that shine on you to try to make you look good. And it's a small room. It was a little office, and that's the setup. Ray's thought here on the Yankees, Ash, the old George Steinbrenner wouldn't have put up with this. It's effectively what you said in our first segment of the show. This is Hal is not acting like his dad. And look, a lot of people would say that's a good thing in some ways, but not when it comes to the competitiveness of wanting to win. So I was just kind of thinking when we're watching this quarterback show, how many teams are set at quarterback for at least 3 years? So I said to you, you don't pick a team that just drafted a quarterback because we don't know and they don't know. And you assume that player drafted in the first round is going to be on the roster starting at some point over the next 3 years. So you could take those teams off the list. I think you may have thrown one on here.
Yeah.
But I think it's fewer than we would assume. Now, we all know it's the most difficult position for NFL teams to evaluate and to figure out and to bring to success from the college level. And so maybe you'd say, well, yeah, I kind of would figure the number is low. But when you say there are 32 teams, I would tell you it's certainly less than half. Wouldn't you agree, Ash? Just without putting a lot of thought into it?
Yeah, I would say it's less than half, but maybe it's closer to half than you think.
Okay. I mean, we talk all the time about like, hey, is this guy a top 10 quarterback? Is he top 15? And once you aren't top 12 or 15, how could you be a guy where the NFL team is going to say, yep, we're set for the next 3 years, right? Like, in my opinion, you kind of have to be top 10 for that team to say we are set for the next 3 years.
Yeah. But look at Ryan Tannehill. You wouldn't call him a top 15 quarterback, and they are riding that train like crazy.
But would you put Tennessee on this list?
I would now because I don't think he's the next 3 years. But
you think the Titans have their quarterback currently on the roster for the next 3 years?
No.
Right. So you wouldn't put them on the list.
No, but I don't think you're talking about he's been there for like 3 years. He's a guy who I don't think people 3 years ago would have said the Titans have their quarterback for the next 3 years. He's not a top 15 quarterback. He's a guy who kind of like bucks the trend a little bit.
Yep. Okay. I see what you're saying to me. All right. Here are your teams. You picked out 15 of them. Run them through quickly here. Buffalo, everybody would agree with.
Tua, I picked hesitantly because I'm not sure that he's going to play games for that team. I think the Patriots are going to ride Mac Jones all the way through until he proves that he can't do it. As long as Lamar Jackson stays in Baltimore,
he got his contract.
Good. Yeah,
can he stay healthy? Yep.
That doesn't mean anything.
Can he stay healthy?
Joe Burrow is obviously the guy. I think Kenny Pickett will be the guy at least for the next 2 years, and if he's any good, it'll be 3 and beyond. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert is a star. Daniel Jones, because you just gave him all that money. I'm not saying he's the guy, but unfortunately, I think he's the guy for the next 3 years. Dak Prescott, again, those two I think could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or two they're kind of like, oh, boy, this isn't working out. But I think because of the money invested in those guys, ultimately they probably will be. Jalen Hurts is a star. Justin Fields is a star. I included Bryce Young because I wasn't sure about whatever. And somewhere in that roster, San Francisco has its starting quarterback for the next 3 years.
Okay. All right. Here's my list. You had 15. I say 12. Buffalo's my only team in the AFC East. The Jets don't have the guy. I can't say with confidence the Jets have the guy. They might. Can't say they have the guy. Look, I think Mac Jones is probably there for 3 years, but I can't And Tua's injury history is just obviously enough for me to say that I don't believe Miami for sure thinks that they even believe they have the guy for the next 3 years. Okay, I'll take the entire AFC North. You outlined why Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. I will add Deshaun Watson using the reasoning you did for both Dak Prescott and the money is too great.
Yeah.
It's all guaranteed. Last year, not even half a year.
Yeah.
Really, I just think no matter how this year goes, the Browns are going to try to build around Deshaun Watson. There's too much invested in him to just cut him loose at any point. Jacksonville's my only team in the South. Again, I'm taking the Colts out of the equation. Even though Anthony Richardson might be the guy. Yes, of course, Mahomes. Yes, of course, Herbert. No to Russell Wilson. No to Jimmy Garoppolo in Vegas. Daniel Jones because of the contract. If it were a 2-year deal, the Giants wouldn't be on my list. But it's a 4-year deal or whatever they gave him, and so he is on the list. Prescott, same thing. I think Dallas will forever believe that Dak Prescott, and because of Jerry Jones, that he can be the guy there. And I believe he can be. It just somehow hasn't worked out yet for whatever reason. Jalen Hurts, yes. So I've got 3 in the NFC East. The only other NFC team I'm picking is Chicago. You said Justin Fields is a star. I think the jury is still out on Fields. Can he be an effective enough passer in this league to really win enough games? I don't know. But
they love him.
He's tough. He runs.
They should be a much better team this year. They have built around him. They've made moves. They've tried to improve. Yeah. I still think even if it's not great this year, they give him at least another year. And I don't think he's going to disappoint. He was good last year. I thought he was really good.
He'll get at least another year, even if this year's a disaster. All you do is bring in a veteran to compete in camp and then let them duke it out. But Fields will get at least 2 more counting this year.
I know you say he's an unproven passer, and I get that. But what he can do with his legs, there aren't a lot of guys who can run like him in the NFL. He is a great running quarterback, and he proved that last year. And so I think you try to figure it out, and you try to utilize what he's really good at, and you supplement with the passing game and allow him to do what he's good at.
So Geno Smith just got a big contract in Seattle. He's not on our list. I heard Dan Orlovsky from ESPN say today that he thinks the Lions are a Super Bowl contender. Goff is not on our list. But it just tells you, I think, how tenuous the quarterback situation is every single year. That you can really only bank on a couple of years. We don't know what Jordan Love has. Obviously, huge prove-it year in Green Bay. They believe he's the guy for maybe the next decade, but hasn't shown you anything to say it's going to happen.
Right, and the Lions could be a Super Bowl contender this year and maybe get close to it, but I just don't think 3 years from now Jared Goff is the starting quarterback.
Yeah, interesting. It could be they drafted a guy we were just talking about, Hendon Hooker. Exactly. Yeah, it could be him. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Go watch Quarterback. Not that it needs my promotion. It's doing just fine on Netflix without me telling you to go watch it. Go have a great weekend. How about that instead?